Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We're going to try three different types of, or three different reflection cards using different types of top area materials. Pre-printed, not pre-printed, holographic, printable vinyl sticker paper. All right, for one, we're going to use the gold foil down below. That's just standard gold foil stock, or gold card stock. I have a photograph of clouds that you can download and print out for free, or have printed wherever you get your photo prints made of my clouds. It looks like my Flickr gallery is going to remain up. I didn't know if they would remove my photos or something like that. There's a limit if you don't have a pro account on there, which I discontinued, but I have 6,000 photos up there. Some of them are of clouds, and there's a cloud album up there, but we're going to pair that with the silver cardstock, okay? And I have a piece of Deanna's background papers here, and we're going to pair this warm tone piece up with a piece of gold cardstock. Hello, bugs. How are you? All right, so pretty dramatic there. So we might be using some different materials depending on what type of background we're using. Okay, so the holographic printable vinyl sticker paper, I think we're going to use the Brilliance water-based pigment inks on this one. And then on the foil cardstock for all of these, we're going to use StazOn. Okay, so the StazOn, we need something that's going to print and adhere to these lower sections here, okay? And what you use on these different types of surfaces up top, it just depends on what you're using for that, okay? So you can pair up these foil, reflective lower portions with any type of scene you want to up top. If you haven't seen these reflection cards before, what this represents here is the horizontal kind of flat surface, and when it's reflective like this, it's going to represent water. If you're doing a winter type of scene or something like that, it could represent ice, something that's going to be reasonably reflective. So usually water, okay? Hello, Jeannie and Linda and Patty. Happy Friday evening to all of you. All right, let's just go with this one right here. Okay, so I haven't planned anything out. I'm just going to be winging it here. Okay, so there are bodies of water in the desert, typically kind of ephemeral, it rains and it's there for however long, and then it, evaporates, absorbs, or whatever. Some areas in the deserts, there's streams and things like that that run for a little bit longer, but desert imagery using the new nature set. Okay, so I'm just composing in my head here. I got some things out that I thought I could be able to use, especially on that lower section down below. But let's start with the top section up here. All right. I don't think that these should take very long. Okay, so this is going to be this little rocky ledge area here, and I'll put some cacti in the background or something like that. But this will represent some kind of pool, amongst the rocks maybe, or something of that sort. And let's see. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking about. Whatever I want to have reflected in this lower section, it's usually, if it's some kind of focal point, it's usually better to have it a little bit lower in the composition, just because it reflects better the closer it is to that mirrored surface. Because we're not really using a mirror, we're using metallic cardstock, so it's only so reflective. It's decent though, for a reflective metallic paper surface, but you don't want to have something like the thing that you really want to be the focal point of your scene in your reflected area, like way up here. Like you can see my thumb wiggling up there. It's going to be way down there, where my thumb is much more defined in this lower section here because it's maybe an inch from this surface right here, okay? So the more defined it is, the lower it is in relation, the closer it is in relation to the reflective surface, then say something like that up here. Hello, Cynthia. Good to see you. Okay, so I'm going to put a ledge up here, and I'll put some clouds in the background up here as well. And that's just simply because I'm going to have some clouds in the background like that, just so I don't have to get exactly where I'm going to put this ledge, you know, perfect. I don't want to have to position this white pigment ink perfectly on this paper down here. I mean, it wouldn't be hard to do, you know, I can do a light impression with this and then, you know, add this white blocking out that I'm doing here. See that right there? I don't want this, in other words, this holographic patterning and colors to just show absolutely right through this rock right here in this whole area down here. You can have a little bit of it, like some of those colors are reflecting off of the rocks, but I don't want it to just show right through the image as if this rock is transparent. So you do some blocking out here, okay? So I can do this. I can add in the white brilliance ink on the printable vinyl because it has that surface that's made for printing on, okay? But you can't use this brilliance ink on the foil and have it adhere to it. So if you use it down here, which you can, you're just going to spray seal this ink down. But I'm going to try to avoid that. I've just been using mostly stays-on impressions on my foils when I can. Although it does look good to block out some areas, you know, some objects in this lower section sometimes, especially in the foreground. But when you spray seal this type of ink on here, sometimes that overspray that gets up here gets a little bit, there's a little bit of diffusion. Where did I get that black ink? I'm getting that black ink from this cotton ball here. I guess I used that cotton ball for black. And it's still completely wet for some reason. Yeah, I'll need to be careful about that black. Here, let me just switch off here. Here's my white one. Hello, Bill. Hello, Debbie. Okay. Let's see. I think that should be adequate for my ledge. Like that. Maybe I won't put any clouds down here. That looks pretty arced there and even. I can probably just go right there and get that on there. Let me think. I do forget how to do things sometimes, or some of the little points that I'm thinking about on here. Okay, so one of the things I tend to do, if I don't do these reflection cards too often, is sometimes I put a little bit too much up here. You want to keep this area up here kind of simple, because the stronger the contrast that you have up here, the better and stronger the reflection down below. Okay, so I'm just going to keep it like that. I'm not going to add in a bunch more clouds up here. I'm just going to leave it. Okay. Okay, so that was fast. Now let's do the ledge. Let's see, I can't remember when I re-inked this black here. And you don't have to apply that white ink when you're doing blocking out, you know, real smooth or anything like that, or, again, super opaque, okay? It could be, you know, downright blobby and poorly applied. Because when you stamp your imagery over the top of it, it all evens it out anyway, okay? Kind of. I mean, it doesn't even it out, but it visually kind of just everything merges just fine, okay? There's shadows and light within the images themselves, so if you get one area that's a little bit more opaque with white and one area that's a little bit less, you know, like I said, it doesn't really matter when doing something like this. Okay. All right, so just merging, you know, bringing out this ledge, which is approximately 4¼ inches wide, getting that extra little bit in there. So overlap your previous impression a little bit, like so, okay? And we'll have our ledge like that, a rocky area, whatever, reflecting down there in the water like that, okay? My tendency is if I'm doing this in a different type of terrain, I would add a bunch of reeds or something like that alongside this bank here, but that would kind of represent something that's around there like year round. So I'm just going to leave it as is, okay? And I'll just shade the lower half a little bit, like so. Okay, so we need some foreground imagery down here. I'm going to put my cacti up there, and maybe some cacti will be down here. Look at my finger there. Cacti will be over here. And we'll see this kind of reflected area within this space. All right, so let's see. Let's go with the let's go with this organ pipe cacti in the background like this. I'll go for a couple different things, and I'll put some rocks in the foreground. Okay. And again, using the Brilliance black here, ink, for the impressions on the printable vinyl. Printable vinyl takes water-based media really, really well because apparently that's what printer inks are, you know, your inkjet printer inks. I didn't know that. I had no idea about that until I started using these you know, these types of papers here. Okay, I guess it makes sense. You know, I guess it wouldn't be a Xylon-based ink or something like that because it wouldn't be able to blend very well. And if it was oil-based, it would take too long to dry. So, yeah, that's not something I ever really thought about, though. Yeah, like a solvent-based ink would it would dry in our printers and it would clog up the heads too easily. So run out and get your Brilliance pigments. I say that all the time because it's not a new product. I was, you know, just looking through that, doing that flip through of that Rubber Stamp Madness from 20 years ago, and Brilliance inks were the ones that were being kind of advertised at that time. So, and not a lot of people use them, or some people don't even remember them because they've gotten into stamping in the last 10 or 15 years or something like that. So it's like they haven't even heard about it. And the people that have it, a lot of people aren't, you know, that have had it, like me. I had mine from way back when. I don't know why I got it, because it was all about Marvy for me back then. But I hadn't really used it, mine. Now this pad here is my 20-year-old one. I just didn't use it, so I've just been re-inking it, you know, since I started using it. But what I'm getting at is, you know, I just don't want these things to become discontinued. Some of the colors already have been. I don't know if they'll discontinue like white, black, silver, gold, you know, probably the more popular colors. But I don't really need those other colors, but these ones really open up the doors for a lot of different surfaces to use in stamping and crafting in general because of all the different types of papers that we have. Probably in our collections, the metallics, the foils, now the printable vinyls, things like photo prints. All right, so a couple of those. Let's break up the the monotony of this with a little bit of a smaller one in the background. Let's go. Let's get something like this. Okay. So this is what we're looking like in a reflected area, like that. Okay, now let's add in some things down here. All right. And again, I'm going with the gold. This particular printable vinyl looks good with silver or gold down here, but I do like this kind of warmth of this tone down here. And you can see where this is reflecting down here because this is gold. Of course, it gives it a warm tone. But this is also reflecting back up here, and that's why you see that gold kind of little flash up there, at different angles, as opposed to a silver. Although the holographic does have that warmth in there at certain angles, the yellow, but this just kind of, it pushes that temperature, with those reflections like that. All right, so let's see. I'm going to stamp the horseback. Yeah, let's go with this. Oh, maybe this is too small here. Maybe, I've been using this on everything, but she goes so well with it. Well, maybe I'll do this one. I'll do this guy, just for a little difference. Instead of Lady Writer, it's Guy Writer. Oh, I stamped that right there. Oh my gosh. How was that? Did I accidentally do that? Oh well. Let me see if I can match it up here. Not a great thing to have happened in a live stream. All right, let me see what I can do here. I need a light lower here. I'm going to try to match up like two different angles here. Although I could stamp something kind of bolder and just stamp right over the top of it. All right, hold your breath. Oh, I double stamped. Okay, I wasn't even close, huh? All right, so I might be able to wipe that off right there. See that double stamping right there? Let me see if I can get that. I probably can't because that water-based emulsion really grabs your media fast. So it's not like wiping this off like a piece of foil. Let me see. Yeah, that is really on there. Or is it? Oh, it's coming right off. Huh. Okay. I wouldn't count on that for too long, though. I wouldn't push it too far. Okay, it is giving me a little bit of this ring right here, but it does seem to come right off. Although I'm wiping off the emulsion though, the water-based emulsion. All right, there we go. See that little ring around there? I think the spray sealant will get rid of that though, but we'll see. All right. I gotta get a little bit closer to the head there. That little ringy thing is kind of weird. Let me see if I can kind of minimize it though. All right, see that right there? There's a halo around the person. Let me see. It's a portal. It's a... What's that movie with James Spader where he goes in that portal back to Egypt? That's what I'm trying to do here. All right, I might be able to get rid of that thing because the more I kind of rub on that, it kind of gets a little bit more narrow. And you can't really see the difference between in here and out here, so I don't know. I'll do something with that. Let's get to this blower section down here. Okay, so I'm going to add in some rocks down here. I'm just going to keep this real simple, and we'll do that with the Stays-On ink. Hello in Perth. Good morning. I take it you can get printable vinyl down there, Nicole? It seems to be a fairly common type of surface. I don't think you find it down here like in stores though. It's like in a, you know, like off the shelf. All right, here comes some rocks. Put this one down. I'll kind of offset a couple of these from one side to the other. Okay, holding this down a little bit longer. I'm not sure if that I should do it. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes it's, if you hold the Stays-On down on the foil for too long, sometimes it dries and maybe doesn't transfer. I don't remember. It seemed to work just fine. Maybe it was the Stays-On the vinyl. You have to kind of stamp it and then lift quickly if you're using the Stays-On for the vinyl, which you can do. But sometimes it dries so fast that it adheres to that emulsion surface. And it kind of, it's almost like you're peeling off kind of like a dried, adhered medium that's adhered the stamp to the surface a little bit. All right, so here's some rocks. I'm going to probably add some more, though. Let's see. Oh my god, this thing went completely white on me. I might be adding a moon back there. Okay, look at that. Look at that. Isn't that weird? That emulsion removal suddenly became that white area. We're going to add in a moon, I think, to this one. I'm just going to take that area. But here's these rocks down here. See this right here? See how those rocks reflect and kind of block out. They don't block out completely because I didn't block them out with white down here. But it gives it that movement against the surface like that that I really like. Okay, now remember how I was saying I wasn't going to add in some clouds in here? I think I might be. I'm going to add in a moon. I'll do my 1-inch moon and back in that area, and we'll just restamp that rider. Who knows, maybe it'll look better. It'll look better. That is really weird, though. Has anyone tried that on this vinyl? Just applying water, it made it completely white like that. I guess if I wet it Who knows, if I wet it and spray it, maybe it'll retain that. I mean, I can just redo this thing too. The thing's really fast, but let's just see what we can make of this right here. Okay, so let's see. White. I need a little bit of a larger, but it's almost my 1-inch hole punch size right here. Okay, let me see. We'll go a little bit thick right there because it's going to dry a little bit lighter, okay? Let's see if I can expand. I'll just expand this moon a little bit around the edge. I'm just kind of giving it a little bit of a slightly less opaque perimeter like that. That should do it right there. All right, I'm going to let that set up and dry for a little bit. Let's do so. Okay, I might be adding in some clouds too on this one. Now that I have that huge moon in there. Let me see what that's going to look like reflected down there too. Yeah, it looks okay. All right. Let me let that dry here a couple seconds, and then let's finish off this lower portion here. Tiny rock small, and we'll add this around the base of these rocks right here. And I'll use this as my shading tool for this lower section here. Sorry about the reflection. I can't show that too easily, but let's see. Okay, you can see where those rocks are right here, and I'm going to carry the shadow out here and right around in these areas right here. It's really hard to shade with StazOn. I can't just take like a brush applicator or something like that and tap it down there. It's like if I put something with this on there and I go like that down there, it's like almost dry on the applicator before I even touch the surface down here. Even after a couple impressions with this rock right here, it's almost completely dry. So using this like a toning device is really good. Any kind of textural stamp, would be good. So if you're doing like a larger body of water or something like that, you can use your water pattern small or something of that sort. Okay, and I'll add some of this up here next to that water's edge. And having these little textures in here really work nicely against that those reflections from that top scene into that lower scene. So this is what that looks like. Let me see. Can you see that? Can you? You can kind of see it's too bright. There they are, right up here. Okay. Maybe you won't be able to see it easier when I put in this. Okay, so see this lower section right in here. you can see these rocks right in here, and there's those rocks, those pebbly rocks reflecting right in here. And what do they call it? I forget that term where you move something and it moves at a different rate depending on distance. Anyway. Okay, so let me see right here. Let me try to get this horse without double tapping it down there again. And then we'll add some shading onto this rock too to blend that in a little bit. Okay, let's see here. Oh my god, it doesn't stamp out at all. I might just be redoing this top scene. Oh, was that? Oh my god. All right, so that was the StazOn. I forgot I was supposed to use the brilliance on there. It's a comedy of errors with this one impression. Maybe I was supposed to use the Lady Writer or something like that. And it's like protesting. Yeah, but the StazOn, I don't know. StazOn didn't go for some reason. Maybe this is like the spirit of this writer in the distance, you know? It's not like the actual person, so it's like stamping out like super light, or it refuses to stamp out. Okay, let me try this one right here. Ow. This is the most buildup of any ink that I've ever had here. It's like even hard to apply it off of the cotton ball here. It's like totally fraying. All right. All right, let that dry right there. I'll tone it in right here as I wait for that to dry though. Colored pencils on this area right in here. That looks so extreme. All right, working on the shading right here. The moon, it is then. We'll see how it goes. Doing this kind of repair stuff on this little area right here is just taking longer than it would just take me to just redo this whole thing right here. It would just be a couple minutes, but I don't know. I really feel determined to try and get that to work out there. Okay, so on this rock down here, I'm shading the shaded areas so you can see these slightly darker areas on the rock. So you go in there and you're just reiterating it. And that brilliance ink, I'm not coloring this holographic vinyl as I always say when I do this combination of techniques. What I'm coloring is I'm coloring the brilliance ink that has been applied to that vinyl. And that brilliance ink, I mean, it's coated it to a certain degree, but it's not a real thick coat. So you can go in there and you can apply a certain amount of your colored pencil work, because there's a little bit of a texture or tooth on a microscopic level that this brilliance ink provided. And the brilliance ink really adheres to this type of vinyl really well. So you can go for, I don't know, like 2 or 3 light coatings or something like that. You can't color this white brilliance ink with, you know, as if you're using, you know, a piece of white, you know, textured, you know, paper that's going to be ideal for colored pencils. You can't, because it gets built up with too much wax, and, you know, you'll reach kind of a saturation point where it just, you know, your pencils won't adhere to it anymore because there's nothing left for it to grab onto, you know, that's textural, because you flattened it down with, you know, some initial layers of previous colored pencils used. Okay, so here's a little bit of a darker blue right here. And again, I'm kind of using it right in the shaded areas, so I'm layering my shadows with some different tones here. And colored pencils are a little bit translucent, so the colors underneath kind of show through that top portion. So see that right there? Don't look at this right here. All right, let me see something. I might go with I might just stamp out this larger writer here. Oh, now let me see right here. This one's a little bit more delicate here. Let me see right here. All right, if this doesn't print out reasonably well here, we're just going to move on to the next surface. Or I could redo this one, I don't know, if I have another piece of this sitting around here. All right, reasonably well. The horse legs are like super long here because it printed down in this lower section here. But I'm going to put that in shadow here anyway. Okay. The softer the colored pencils, the better for this type of application. Some of my pencils are a little bit hard out of the same pack. These ones are Prismacolors, but some of them are a little bit too hard, and I find that they don't work on this, for this purpose very well. Okay, I'm creating a little bit more of a darker horizon right there. Ledge. Like that. Okay. And we'll go down here. I like to do the water's edge quite a bit darker, where it transitions into that, different substance. All right, let's see. Okay. That's too harsh there, I know. I'll be adding in some clouds or something like that in the background. But that holographic looks pretty good with that. Okay, let's add in some other slight textures in here. Let's go for the ripped paper towel type of application. I won't make it too, overly cumulus, loopy with the billows here. I don't think. Well, maybe a little. Let's see. Let's just see how it goes right here. I'll go with something like that. All right. Ghost Rider. All right. Light touch. I just want to transition that moon out a little bit. And I don't want to put it over my, my cacti in the background there. So I'll be a little bit careful about that. No, I think it's inevitable. I'm going to be going over some of it. I just don't want to do too much of it, though. Okay. And I got a smudge of ink over here, too. Let's see here. I'll do, some layers of it within this background. Or, I don't know, whatever, striations. You got to be kind of careful about the this light approach with it. Just go with a really kind of a drier applicator here. Don't have too much ink on it. That way you can get kind of these lighter kind of applications of it, like that right there. All right, see my fingerprint right there of ink. Where when I was using this as a block out, like I said again, I didn't have to be really careful at all with that. With this one, I'm not being super careful, but I'm just being more mindful of it. Okay, let me get that fingerprint right there. Unless you want your fingerprints, within the piece to kind of identify yourself as the creator of it. All right, so see that's right there? Actually, it looks pretty good. Let me keep doing that. There it is right there. It's kind of it really blends in when you're looking at it like this, though. Okay, now that area down there, again, is like a little bit harsh, so let me try to take care of some of that. I'll go a little bit heavier with like a little bit of foreground. Not a foreground cloud, but a cloud that's merging in with that moon just slightly better. And then I'll run a little of this, in front of this rider here. Oh, that rider's still a little bit wet. Here, I'll wait for that. I'll come back to this one. I'll put a little bit of tone. It's picking up some of that black right there. All right, let me come back to this one. But anyway, this is what we're looking at here as far as that reflection goes. Like that. Let me see if any of those clouds, I guess those clouds aren't reflecting too much. I see a little bit of it down here, some of these top portions right up there. But yeah, that holographic on gold is one of my favorite combinations like that. Just the plain holographic. I don't know, I might have used the starry holographic, I'm not sure. I'm going to put that in mist, though, but let's let that image dry a little bit. All right, so anyways, oh, by the way, when someone opens the card like this, too, you get so much of that movement right down in here, and I really love that lighting like that. I don't know, maybe those clouds look pretty good up there. Okay, so let's do it on here. with the photo print. Okay, so this is just a photo print on photo paper. Okay, glossy photo paper. Okay, it's not glossy cardstock. It could be whatever you print out on at home. Inkjet printers or something like this. This one just came from like Costco. You know, I just sent a bunch of those. And silver foil down here. So let's go with that. Let's go with the same type of imagery. Okay, now I'm not going to block out down here. I guess you could, but I'm choosing to go this way on this composition. I mean, when you have these, pre-printed backgrounds, you have to take into consideration the value down here. What's going on within the photograph. Okay, so if I did that ledge down here, which we could do, and just make it darker and have a lighter sky. But again, I want this lighter area down here for when whenever I stamp my focal point down there, because they're going to stand out against this lighter area better than they would a darker area, unless I put someone over here, which I don't want to, because this is way up on the surface, so it won't reflect down on that lower area as well. Okay. All right, so maybe I'll go with the same composition here on this one. Okay, down here, I'm just going to use my just standard dye-based inks, okay? Because I think I want to color this lower area with some alcohol inks. I really like the combination of alcohol inks over water-based dyes in this area down here, because those alcohol inks, in theory, they're not going to smear your water-based impressions, okay? All right, so the Brilliance is water-based, but it's a lot more surface-oriented and it's thicker, so that's why I'm not using the Brilliance ink on here, because I think when I go over it with my alcohol inks, it could smear it. All right, so let me remove some of the Brilliance ink off of my stamp here. I can't tell you how many people, and Linda, this happened to you too. You got the holographic sticker paper, right? With those starry ones at first. So someone just told, I get this comment about not once a week, but maybe once every, and not everyone tells me about it either, but they used water-based media over the holographic cardstock recently. So, and that didn't work very well, right? So the water-based media is on the printable vinyl holographic. There's so many different types. There's holographic, there's cold laminate, holographic sticker paper, okay? I don't know if they even say, they might call it holographic sticker paper. And what they mean by cold laminate is, it comes in this sheet and then you peel it off and, you can put it right over the top of something and you'll have those holographic types of features within there. And that's sticker paper too, and it's transparent. And then you have, your holographic cardstocks. And then there was, wasn't there one more type of holographic? Holographic sticker paper, holographic printable vinyl, holographic cardstock. Maybe there was 3 ones. But oftentimes people are getting they get confused as to what to pair, their media with. With a lot of it, they can just if they want to, they can use like a StazOn ink or something like that, and just, that's going to be applicable to, a lot of different surfaces. Unless you're going to pair, doing alcohol inks over the, the StazOn, that's not going to work because it'll put the alcohol ink impressions back into solution. Okay. Let me stamp this guy. But you can see how beautifully, water-based dyes stamp on, your photo paper here. Okay. And that's just like, the printable vinyl too. I don't know if it works as good. This is my dye right here, and it's a little bit lighter. Now, that was just my first test right here, but you can see the brilliance right here stays on, and VersaFine Clear. I'm really surprised that the VersaFine Clear works on there because it's an oil-based ink, but it might take longer for it to dry on the vinyl, though. But the printable vinyl, that is. So I don't know how it would work on here. I think I've tried it before and it just didn't dry. It wasn't the VersaFine Clear though, it was just VersaFine. That was back before I had a Clear pad. All right, little character there. Let's go for the imagery. So as I'm doing these different scenes with this first desert set, it's occurred to me that it's occurred to me that I wanted other types of flora in there. So I'll show you guys some of the next set of desert imagery to come, probably later on this month. Hello, Jeannie. So I don't have my glasses on. Is that Nox? Hello, Nox. N-O-X. N-O-X? There's that N-E-X. N-O-X, right? Thanks for joining in. Checking it out. I really need some really good photographs of sunsets. By the way, okay, so if people are interested in some really great background photos, Linda B here, Bystrom, she's taken and I have them on my Flickr, but if you're on Facebook, there's Linda, what is that album called? Is it Background Photographs or something like that? What was that called? But it's in the Stampscapes Facebook group. And other people have contributed to it too, so there's all kinds of different photographs in there that you can use and print out, on your whatever, your inkjet printers or something like that. And you can get some really great backgrounds going for, photo stamping. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to color that, but I'm going to let it dry a little bit. Okay, let's get some of these images going down this lower section here. All right, I was using this on my photo print, right? Just standard, inkjet home printer paper, okay? It's the same stuff that they're using at Costco or something like that. All right, that's where I got a bunch of these. I'm going to switch from my dye-based ink, though, because I'm stamping on my silver foil, reflective mirrored cardstock, okay? It's a silver foil is what it's called, but some of the silver foils, they're a little bit more like a brushed aluminum, and they're not quite as reflective. This one's reasonably reflective. You can see my fingers in there. I mean, it's not a complete mirror, like I said, but it's reasonably reflective, okay? But any of those types of papers like that, you want to use Probably, you know, a solvent ink on there. I've used the Brilliance on there again, but I have to spray seal it dry. But that's when I was using, you know, when I was doing some more kind of shadow work and stuff like that and blending in some additional tones in there. I haven't been doing quite as much of that lately because I think it's just better. The less spray sealing or the less fiddling you have to do this area down here, the less it's going to be affected by spray sealing and getting that overspray on there, which makes it a little bit less reflective than it is. Okay. On some things, maybe it helps, you know, to mute out a little bit of it. I don't know. I tend to want it as reflective as possible, though. So not having to spray seal, for me, has been, I don't know, you know, my goal usually. Okay, this right here. Stamp and hold for a little bit, okay. And you get some reasonably decent impressions on there, okay. That. It's hard to show you. It's really hard to show these reflection cards sometimes, or just metallics in these live streams like that. But again, here there's those rocks down in that lower section reflecting off of the, you know, areas. And that's where, I mean, some of these rocks, if they were a little bit more opaque, they'd be a little bit better, but they're solid enough. And I'll put the other ones down here, the larger ones. So this is the smaller rock out of the set. Oh, is that the album? It's not called that though, is it, Linda? On the Facebook group, or did you put those in a separate album? What's that? Yeah, the photo collection of everyone's, you know, photo stamping, skies. It's usually skies, you know, for photo stamping. All right, so we had that right down there. I'll put one right there too. I was thinking about going to Joshua Tree over this break sometime. My son's winter break. But he kind of hurt his tailbone in training, so he's been taking it easy with that. Usually when we're out, you know, in Joshua Tree, we're doing a lot of climbing around on the rocks, so. So we didn't go. Okay. All right, so silver area's down here. That's supposed to be this little pool of water right in here. And let's take a look and see how that is looking like there. It was like was that Lake Powell-ish type of thing. Isn't that fun though? Someone opens their card up like that. And they have these reflections like that. I really like word stamps down here too, because it looks like it's floating right on the water, and you do it typically in white unless, I guess if the sky is really light or something like that, you can do it in black and it'll show up, but I typically like it in white. Okay, so on here, you know, on a photo glossy cardstock, we're not going to be able to really color that with something like colored pencils, you know, a soft medium. Maybe you have like super soft colored pencils or maybe watercolor pencils. You might be able to tone in these rocks, but I just do it with alcohol inks, and I think that works really well. So just grab whatever tones. I'm going to go with some colors that are kind of roughly in my sky. Maybe I'll warm it up a little bit with something like this. Different gray tones. I don't have a huge amount of grayscale. I have it in some other brands, but I only have so much room on my desk, so I usually just keep my plumes up here. So something like this color scheme right here. We have some warm and cool, you know, but it's real subtle though. And I just keep things really subtle, and I typically work from light to dark with this. And again, so see in some of these shadow areas within my forms there, those rocks, some of it's already shaded because it's, you know, had a darker cloudy area in the background. So we already have some light and shadow already established on here from the very fact that we were stamping it against an uneven surface in terms of the values, okay? But what we can do is we can go in and enhance that a little bit. Let me see, this gray might even be too light. It's a little bit. It's like a 10% gray or something like that. So I'll just go into these gray areas like that, or darker areas, and I'll just kind of, yeah, it's darkening it up a little bit where, you know, where I want it to. But I like to work from like really these subtle types of additions like this, because I have a lot more control over it, over how much I apply. I'm never going to get anything like, when I work like this, I'm never going to get anything like that's too, oh my God, I just ruined it. You know what I mean? If you just bump it up like, you know, 5% in value or sometimes even less, you know, it's just going to be a subtle addition of something. So I'll do that if I can. With the colored pencils, it's just about using kind of a lighter touch to apply, you know, a lighter version. With the pens like this, you can just go from, instead of going with this gray, you use this gray instead, you know, this one right here. Okay. Now, if I'm coloring a white piece of paper and you want to go even lighter than that, you can go with an even lighter gray than this one, something that's just a little bit darker than white. All right, so this is a little bit darker, so I'll stay in these crack, you know, areas a little bit more. I won't blend this up into those lighter areas, so I'm staying a little bit more, you know, in the shadow areas right here. And I'm not going for like perfect smooth, you know, I'm not coloring in a big old area or, you know, an area like this and I want the smooth transition or something like that. This is more like, I am coloring, but it's more like shading, you know, some kind of shadow work on here. And when you give your imagery a little bit more body up top, it reflects a little bit better down below like that too. There's more kind of mass and volume to it than something see-through, you know, like this ledge is, you know, it's, you know, showing through into the back of that, whatever's back there. Okay, this is a little bit more, let's add a little bit of temperature to this just for kicks. I'll add this in here. Oh, you can see if you can see it. I don't know, can you see that right there? The difference between that and that over there. This is like stark. This is a little bit more warm. I mean, it's really subtle though, okay? But there's a little bit of warmth in that lighter area right there. That is kind of putting the other grays back into solution slightly. You know, alcohol on alcohol, it blends it out. And then here's this brownish gray. That's one of my favorite colors right here. I'll give my shadows a little bit more temperature. Okay, so that's kind of a warm, that brownish tinge is a little bit of a warm temperature. And then here's a little bit of violet right here, and you can see the violet right here. It kind of relates to the tones up in the sky like that, right? So I'll bring some of that down in this area, but instead of it just being in a general area that's all throughout the background, I can put it in strategic areas, like in my shadows like this, and deepen the shadows a little bit. It's not, this is a light lavender like this, but adding it down there like that, you're kind of putting some of that gray back into solution, so you're kind of making it a violet grayish tinge. Go like that. I could put some on this horse too, maybe. And that's the way that it looks like that. Okay. All right, speaking of this, the alcohol inks, I haven't really done this too much before, but the alcohol inks might be able to be applied. I need to be careful about this, though, because, again, the alcohol ink will easily put this solvent-based ink impression back into solution, so... But I might be able to kind of hit it in a couple little areas, like where the image isn't, and I'll fill it in a little bit. Like on the tops of some of these kind of more open rocks in here. I'll put a little bit of tone over it just so it isn't completely see-through. I can see that it's applying, but I can barely see it because this is a transparent tone right over the top of, metallic silver. Let me see if we can see that. Yeah, it's, I don't know. I can't tell if it's a little bit more, kind of filled in or not. Okay, so let me add in my little rock texturing shading work down in this lower section. All right. Can you see? I don't know if you can see that. Here, let me try to put this reflection area right here. Okay, so can you see these rocks, these little pebbles down here like that? So I've totally toned this in, and I've carried it out there a little bit, and then down, okay? And I'm going to do the same thing with these ones right over here. I'm going to put some rocks right in here, kind of taper them off a little bit, and I'm going to anchor these ones right here in the foreground with some of that additional, there we go. You can kind of see it a little bit. I'll show you it in the end. Okay, so what I'm doing right here too is I'm going right, that's, the first impression after you ink it up, it's going to leave the strongest impressions. So I'm hitting it where I want those darkest impressions to be. Then I'm kind of bringing it out like this, so it's dark, medium, light, okay? So it's moving from shadow into the light like that. Or, down here, I'm just going for more repetition like that, but I'll go like, that type of shaded, whatever, transitioning convention of outside in like that, okay? And you can see that down there a little bit, right in that section. And then we'll do it right up here. putting it up top here. And again, that's where the top area of the bank transitions into this lower section here. One good thing about working with StazOn too, this dries really fast in here, so I can probably touch it and it's probably fine right now. Okay. So you can see those little pebbles like that in this little area down here. Now it's kind of more in that shallow area where you can see these rocks in here. Let's put a couple more in here now that I can see what it kind of looks like with that top area up there. I'm going to put a couple just kind of isolated, you know, crisp impressions down here. Because again, this isn't supposed to be like this deep, you know, pool or anything like that. Okay, so see that those, you know, those little textures like that work nicely against the reflected objects within that area down like that. And I like that movement of these objects, these little textures and things like that, the rocks against the reflections of those things up top like that. This would be a really good position for a quote or something like that. Again, there's plenty of room up in that sky. And I don't like doing quotes up in this top section. I've mentioned this before. If they're too low, because I don't want to have some kind of like upside down text in here. But when you put the text up here in this top section like this, it's reflecting down in here, in this area down here, the foreground objects that you would stamp down there, obscure it so it looks fine. Or, again, if you have open areas down here, usually if I have a little bit of a darker sky or something like that, but you can do like a reverse text thing in here where it looks like that text is really just floating on the surface of the water, which is a lot of fun. Okay, hello, Jen. Clouds 42 photos. Okay. So if anyone goes to, hello, Vintage Scrap Girl. So if anyone goes to the Facebook group and you want to have access to tons of photos for that you can download and print out, clouds, okay. Kevin's Clouds or something like that. I thought that was a different album that everyone is adding their stuff to over time. All right, so there's my next piece like that. I don't know where this is. Utah, Arizona, wherever. But, okay, I'm looking right there to see if I need, okay, that transitioned anymore. Looks like Barker Dam out in Joshua Tree National Park, except we don't have the organ pipe cacti like that. If you haven't done a reflection card before, highly recommended. Okay, let me see if I can add in this piece. I totally goofed on this impression right here. If anyone has just joined in, I like totally double stamped it. So remedying here with some additional work that was applied to it in the form of these additional clouds. The moon wasn't going to be there. This was going to be like a 10-minute card. And it ended up being, I don't know, a half-an-hour repair card. That's still kind of coming off like that. There's still so much built-up tone in there. Okay, here we go. I'm really kind of obscuring that little rider right back in there. Oh, I don't know. This might just be a redo on that top portion. Like I said, it would just take a couple minutes to do. But this is the holographic foil. Don't look at that rider right there. That's a really good combination with that this imagery, I think. And the gold down like that. All right, let's take a look at the this piece right here. Okay, so a piece of Deanna Tubsadillo's background paper. All right. And I don't know, do I want to do the same composition? Maybe I'll just do the same composition right here. And I'll show you how I colored this type of thing right up here, okay? So this paper right here, it has the consistency of like a, I don't know what they're printed it on, if it's a matte paper, but by the time the printer inks go on there, it feels much more like a semi-gloss or something like that. I mean, it's got a little bit of a satiny type of feel to it, okay? So I can use colored pencils on it with no problem, which I'll do, or my pastel pencil or something like that. But we'll go with some colors out of this color scheme right here. All right, so just depending on what background paper you're using, you know, I've used quite a bit of them so far, but I guess I went through all the warmer tone ones already here, but you know, this one has a little bit of a warmth to it, this aqua kind of green or something like this. So if I stamp something down below, like for example, that ledge stamp, I would probably do the shading with these types of tones out here, colors that are already within the color scheme, okay? You can use black too, but if you want kind of more of that influence of colored light on your objects, then what you're going to use is the same tones that are used within the color scheme, okay? All right, so that being said, let's go ahead and use, I'm going to use the Brilliance ink on here, I think. Sometimes I want to go with something a little bit thicker on this type of pre-printed background paper. It's like using the, the wood grain papers, the vintage papers. It has all that printer ink on there, okay? Just like this one here. Actually, something I've been using, experimenting around a little bit more with is the hybrid ink, okay? So it's somewhere in between like a dye-based ink and a pigment ink, because it has both of them in there, okay? It's a combination of dye and pigment. If you want this ledge to look like it's farther off in the distance too, you could print this out in like that, I don't know, kind of indigo, you know, denim looking blue. And that would look perfectly fine in this color scheme right here, okay? Because it has those colors within there. Holding this down a little bit longer on that printed paper, okay? Anybody have any stamping resolutions for the year? Has everyone stamped on a full page 8.5 by 11 before? Some of you I know do it all the time, but sometimes playing around, if you haven't played around with scale before and going big, that's kind of a fun thing to do, and it kind of, it gets you, I think it gets you thinking about different scenes a little bit differently, or imagery a lot of times. I'm trying to think of what I want to do. I want to play around with more like three-dimensional types of things, embossing, things like that. Okay, I'm going to do a similar thing right here so we can kind of do a comparison contrast type of thing between these different backgrounds, and we can just take a look and see how, you know, the same composition looks with different papers. And in this one, it's, of course, the reflection format, so you can see what these all kind of look like and how they differ from one another. Yeah, I think Photoscape backgrounds. Yeah, that's the album I'm trying to think of. So Photoscape backgrounds. There's a lot of great photographs in there. I think there's sunsets in there, and there might have been some night skies or something like that that people have added. I don't know. People are, not actively adding those things all the time, but I think. When I looked through there, I thought, oh, there's a lot of great source material for people to utilize. So check it out. And if you haven't done like photo stamping before, this is almost like photo stamping in some ways with some of Deanna's backgrounds, except instead of it being on a like photo paper or something like that. It's actual printed card stock. All right. And now, I mean, you don't even have to shade this down here. I just think it looks a little bit more like there's more volumes down there if you do shade it. Okay. Okay, let's see. All right, I'm going to pair this one up with the same golden imagery from this one, so it'll look something like this. Okay, like that. Maybe instead of that cap, I would put like a coyote or something like that. I did bring out my. Where's my coyote stamp? I pulled him out somewhere. I don't know where he went. Or maybe I'll use this one. Here, the Lady Writer. Or do we want to do the same thing? I'm going to go with the Lady Writer on this one. I'm getting confused here. Not really, but, just in terms of grabbing the, all these pads nearby. Stays on that reflective gold area, or on the metallic, be the silver or gold, okay? Brilliance on the printable vinyl, and yeah, just about anything on this one right here. Anything that's going to give you a really good, solid, dark impression, okay? If you need to, when you get, different types of surfaces like this, just do a test print. You can do the thing on these papers too, they have this background on here on all of them. It's kind of interesting that they did that. But you can do your test prints like on the back of the papers here because they're printed as well, and you can see what inks work that you have work the best on it, and then you can stamp on the front side of it. In terms of these Deanna's papers at least. But I'm not quite sure why they have that sky in there unless you're utilizing that back of the paper. You wouldn't be doing that because you'd be mounting this card typically on something, unless you're just mailing this out like a postcard. Or I don't know, or utilizing it like a postcard or something of that sort. But I don't know, does anyone know why they did this, the background on here? On the papers? Okay. Let's see how this looks right here. Pretty dramatic. All right, let's address this area right in here. So, okay. I'm not going to get too much of the same colors. Okay, so here's blue. Okay, that's going to be somewhat similar to, you know, those blues up there. Oh, maybe this one's a little bit closer. It doesn't matter. Okay, so both of these maybe, okay? And you can see where these are pastel backgrounds, I believe. So where she's utilized yellow that's gone into these bluish tones around here, of course, it reads more of like a greenish tinge, okay? So we're going to do that same type of whatever color transition areas within this space, but instead of using black, I'm going to use the colors out of their color scheme like this. And we're just doing them in dark tones. It's not like I want pure blue down here because I'm not going to get it because I'm putting it over these yellowish, orangish tinges down here. But let's just see how it goes. Okay. So again, I'm just kind of reiterating. Now down here, I want this to be a little bit darker around the edge of the water. Just in general, okay? So I'm going darker at the base of this. But aside from that, I'm going to be deepening the shadows in here. So you see there's rock transitions into this rock right here, but there's this shadow right there. Those are those little areas that I'm just kind of hitting. I'm just kind of, we're just kind of reiterating the shading scheme that's already established in the design. So you don't have to come up with, strategies, shading strategies. I mean, you certainly could. Like if I had a big tree here or something like this and I want to, create a shadow that's being cast by it, then certainly. But in something like this, well, here's some cacti right here, so I can add in some tone right at the base of it like that. So there's casting a little bit of a shadow right there. But in this whole other area, you can just deepen the shadows of what already has been established on the designs, because they're tonal. You can just follow, the lead of them. All right. Here's a little bit of a darker blue, so I'm going right in and making those shadows a little bit deeper. There's this cacti kind of casting its shadow like that. You do get these little things, like in nature, you might say, well, why is that cacti growing on this rock right here? You see that all the time in nature. I have a feeling like pine trees are growing out of like a crack, or cacti are just in this little crack. It's because when they're little saplings sometimes growing out of a rock like this, they get their roots established a little bit more solidly, where when there's a flash flood in here, it doesn't just get washed away. They get anchored into these little rocks and then they establish kind of a larger kind of root system like that. So you always see these types of plants and things like that growing out like on the side of a rocky cliff, sometimes even. All right, see that right there? So see, that's a little bit more solid like that. And see these tones that are kind of getting established like that? It's the same kind of tone that's like right up here. And again, because you're just using the same colors that are out of the color scheme. Man, you can do other things like, hey, I want this just to be brown or something like this, or like a reddish rock or something like that. You can do that too. To create more of like instead of like a color harmony, it would be more like a color, I don't know, like a contrast or something like that. I do that sometimes, but most of the times I'm going for kind of lighting and color harmonies like this, where the cast light is being, the reflected light is reminiscent of the light being cast on it, okay? Oh, but what I was getting at too, in terms of New Year's resolutions, if you haven't done any of these types of formats here with the reflection cards, or we call them horizon cards, I'd really recommend it because you can create a lot of drama. So this is just, a fun little scene like this, and I think this looks fine as is. You can mount it, you can do a word, quote stamp or something like that up there. But this is like one of the simplest things to do right down here. And you already have a folded card like this, so it's just pairing this bottom portion up like that with this, which I already think, again, I think it looks fine as is, but that really creates kind of a nice dynamic, almost three-dimensional type of display. And the presentation for someone opening up something like this is really pretty dramatic, because it is, especially if they haven't received something like this before. You can put your quote stamp out here. You can do your, to, from, or whatever, to whatever, love, whoever down here. A quote stamp would be really great out here, a word stamp like that. And then when they open it up, it's like one of those special types of kind of, I don't know, whatever, reveals or presentations like that. All right, so there's that. And I do take this. I have it on black paper. Okay, so if you haven't seen one of these before, I typically do kind of a darker paper like this. Not all the time, for my card base. But if you're using a different type of color that's going to be lighter than it, right? Take a Sharpie pen or something like that and put it a line down in that crease right there, especially if it's a white cardstock. Because when you do this like this, sometimes, and I use a spray adhesive just, to get a completely flat application in here. But sometimes when we put these types of things together like this, I glue, one side in like that. Okay. And I'll go have this at a 45-degree angle like this, and I'll slip this in like this, and I'll lay it down like that. But sometimes you get a slight gap, okay? It's going to be really small sometimes. But see that gap right there? I mean, that really thin one like that down there? If it's white, it's a lot more apparent, okay, than if it's black like this. You don't have to get like perfectly close, like, like that or something like that. See that black, I mean, it shows a little bit like that little gap like that. But again, if it's like this, that white line is kind of visually, obtrusive, to the idea of what this is supposed to be like that, okay? So again, there's a little black line down there. It doesn't really matter as much, okay? And let's see, where's that other one? Don't look at that. And here's the holographic. That holographic one, besides my mucked up impression, like that, I really like that. There's more movement to the holographic one. Yeah, that one looks really good too. The photo looks good too. I would do a sunset or something like that, though. Maybe more than, it'd be more dramatic than these kind of more mellow clouds. I don't know. I guess this makes for kind of a quiet type of card like that. It's more mellow or something like that. This one's kind of more, dramatic and whatever, dynamic, I guess. Maybe this one's more dynamic right there. And I think this one right here, because of that lighting like that, this one's certainly the most dramatic. So I think this would look really cool. A really cool one would be just, if someone had like a red transitioning sky or something like this, or it'd be red on the horizon like this down here, like a glowing red, and then just kind of vignetted around the tops like that. I was thinking about with something like this, red foil would be kind of cool to do. So you have this one up here, And I would probably add in some gold tones around, or black tones around here to really vignette that off. So you'd get this kind of reddish sky like that behind like a composition like this down here. I would really tone this in if it was over the top of red foil like that. But we might be able to do something like this. This might be a little bit too dark though, where something like an orange foil would be interesting, or the orange one I hardly ever use too, so it'd be a way to use that up. But you can do these types of things. I don't know, maybe that would be too loud, I'm not sure. Some of these foils like this, these holographic foils, are so loud that you have to do something a little bit more solid, you know, for it to show up against that type of thing. Or you throw in those clouds in the background just to offset, you know, just that super dynamic nature of the, you know, the existing patterning on there, and especially contrasts in there. So mellowing this one out a little bit, but something like this would be cool too. And I want to use the, you know, some of my blue ones like this too, up there. The only problem is about this blue one though, you can't get it anymore. So I tend to not like to use stuff that's just not available anymore in these videos. All right, but anyways, horizon cards, or reflection cards. I recommend giving it a shot if you haven't before. It really makes for a pretty dynamic surface, and a lot of you already have. If you haven't done these types of things before, you might have some either gold or silver cardstock, you know, in your paper collections already. I run, you know, I get a lot of comments like that. They have some of it, or, you know, they haven't used it or just used it for matting or something like that in the past, or I don't know, little specialty types of things like doing ornaments or something like that. But I don't know, they're really fun to do, and I don't know, you can add that three-dimensional type of aspect into your scenes without really having to do anything kind of, you know, in terms of three-dimensional types of constructions to create that type of feel. So anyway, I recommend giving it a try. Oh, okay, so some new imagery coming out. I'm still kind of tweaking things here, but we have, you know, the Joshua trees, the, you know, those rocks in this set right here. The organ pipe cacti, scorpion, cactus wren, roadrunner, and the horned lizard like that. But ocotillo, saguaro, you know, and different sizes of the ocotillo. I don't want to, you know, there's barrel cactus and things like that we can do, but you know, in order to create scale, you have to do these different things in different sizes. So I have this pair right here, the saguaros. It's super iconic type of cacti that when people think about the deserts, they're thinking about that type of thing. But the ocotillos right here in three different little sizes right here. We have a little vulture, this jackrabbit, have this little skull here, tarantulas, snake, and desert tortoise. And this right here is this little desert brush, I'm calling it, because I need some kind of little scrubby types of element to repeat in here rather than just something flat. You know, you see these types of things and they're, in the springtime, they're blooming little shrubs, oftentimes, different types of colors. So something like that. But when I was thinking about this thing right here, something that would have been really fantastic on this area up here would be the desert bighorn sheep. So I think I want a desert bighorn sheep, you know, to add to this right here. But I already have, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. There's 15 stamps in this kind of preliminary set right here. So that's a lot, but I think I might have room somewhere on here for, you know, like one more image, or I'll just reconfigure this somehow. And I want a bighorn sheep in there. Anytime you see a bighorn sheep out in the, you know, the deserts out here, it's like a really big treat. Some areas they're really what present in on some of those trails, but it usually, you know, you might go years without seeing them in like Joshua Tree or something like that. I've run across them a few different times. They're super, you know, majestic and whatnot. You know, to see those types of things. The tortoise I hadn't run into until, you know, a few years ago. And I saw like three of them all like in the same area, like at the same time. But I've been hoping for a desert tortoise spotting for years and years and years. But the bighorn sheep are one of those things that are really cool to see out there too. So anyway, let's see. Oh, I'm reading your comments right here. Talk to people more. I went to the doctor a day ago. Instead of looking at my phone, I started chatting with the person next to me. That's a good idea, Patty. Yeah. You go and see any type of like events or something like that. I used to notice that, especially when my kid was small, you know, especially if they're out playing on the playground or something like that. I always just saw people just kind of buried in their phones, you know, and I thought, you know, their kids are going to be like grown before you know it, and they're kind of missing a lot of it, you know, if that's always the case, you know what I mean, all the time. But yeah, it sounds like a good idea there. Debbie talks to everyone all the time anyway. Yeah, conversation, huh? It's a shame when we see people, we kind of laugh about it sometimes. If we go out to eat somewhere and we look across at some other tables and there's three or four people. They might be in like their 20s or something like that, but they're all on their phones, you know? And they might not say anything the whole time. We kind of laugh about it a little bit. Unless they're texting each other. Yeah, that's the thought process there, Tracy. You know, once in a while I should probably go into these videos with, you know what I mean? This is just, you know, I'll just show something from start to finish, but often in these videos, these live streams, I don't know, 90% of it is just kind of coming up with, you know, some decisions on the fly. So I figured, you know, might as well kind of explain kind of what I'm thinking about it. And it's usually just, you know, a lot of the choices, not in terms of like coloring or something like that, and the colors. I mean, those are specific types of strategies or something like that. But that's my idea of it, you know, and I try to explain that, which isn't like the way to do thing on all these things, but that's just, you know, what I typically try to do, or my strategies, you know. Have you done one of these reflective scenes with waterfalls? I have. There's probably, at this point in time, there's probably at least 50 videos with either, most of them are reflection cards and some of them are horizon cards, but I have done it where you have the waterfall up top here like this, and then this is where the pool goes. And I think on one of them, what I did was, or on most of them, what I usually do, which is really cool, is you put the waterfall up here. Let's say there's, you know, some water. I don't know if I have. Yeah. Okay. So here's this babbling brook, right? Let me make sure there's no ink on here. So let's see. There's this babbling brook right here. Okay. Waterfall. So it would be stamped on this top portion like this. And then you get this reflection area down here. And I usually put some trees or something up there. You know, so you get a nice strong reflection down here. But what I'm getting at here is, what I like to do is around these waterfalls like this, where you have it going into the water like that, I'll take some bleed proof white and wherever it went, my toothbrush, and I usually like to, if this is just on a card, I'll splatter paint some additional spray down here. But when it's in a reflection card, what's really fun like this too is you splatter paint this top section with some of that little, white paint, okay? But then what you also do down here a little bit is you splatter it, a little bit of it down here, okay? And it really looks, that spray pattern over the top of foil like that, it really becomes really dimensional, because it looks like that splashing water is hovering in space, in the air for something like that. So waterfalls are a really great, thing for anything like this. And this, again, it represents the falling pool area. So if you're doing a waterfall, you have it right down here, low on the horizon like that, okay? I wouldn't put it up. I usually could, but sometimes people stamp something up like this. So if their water kind of goes down like this and then out, where this is, I see this as representing that, the top surface is the water. So, just put it right down flush like that down there, on your top card like that. But yeah, I don't know, I should do that again sometime. I really love any excuse to do, the more splatter painting, the better. The more, if you can work a splatter painting into any type of card, all the better, because it takes us back to, like doing, different types of art techniques like that. That's like an art technique that, I typically think about like as a kindergarten or something like that. So I feel like a little kid when splatter painting something like that. Hello, Margaret. The skull. Yeah, we need to. I think I was trying to think, what did we talk about in one of the previous live streams? Because I think it was, I couldn't remember what it was, but then a couple days later I thought, oh, I think we mentioned like a skull. So so I added that one in there like that. These little tiny dinky types of imagery are, they're kind of hard to do, because you don't know of how much information to put in there. Like that vulture, all it is just that little tiny white head like that, so you can color it in or something like that. But usually I don't like to do just 100% silhouettes. I'd like to have some, different textures in here, if at all possible. Now, when things get really small, it's just going to be a silhouette. I like to have a little tiny bit of, the lighting in there like that, so we can show the different types of patternings on things. But yeah, now for a big orange sheep, I don't know, it might just be a, solid silhouette like that. But yeah, so I was thinking about when I was putting together some, imagery for these cards right here, I was thinking about doing like a horizon card too, or something like that, not water. But I had a couple of my cow images that I looked at briefly, and I thought, do we do like a desert scene, like ranching, where we have this like cow skull in the foreground and the living ones in the background, or something like that? I don't know if that would be a really great pairing for that or not. All right. So anyways, thanks for joining in. Thanks for, if you were here in the beginning, for going through my blunder. I'm going to re-stamp that imagery right here on the printable vinyl here. I don't know. I mean, I could cover that thing up with a, my largest probably cacti, cactus like that. I don't want to do that though. But yeah, I double stamped that earlier, and I kind of mucked that whole thing up like that. So, but this whole thing right here, this is really fast to do. So I'm going to re-stamp that one out. But thanks for bearing with me and trying to repair that little section of that little spot on that. But yeah. Anyway. Thanks again for joining in. Have a great rest of evening. Great rest of Thanks for joining in. All right, everyone. Happy rest of January 5th or whatever time it is for you. Date around the world.